I'm here with Sorabh Saxena. He's the Executive Vice President for Global Operations and Services at AT&T Business. Great to see you. Thanks so much for making time to catch up with me.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed. So I've been wanting to catch up with you and have a conversation around that whole challenge of consumer-driven disruption for some time, so it's great to see you. We hear a lot historically about companies disrupting each other. And we've even heard recently that banks are disrupted by fintechs and insurtechs and so forth. But I think there's this Cambrian explosion of disruption coming from the consumer side of things. And in many ways, people describe it as the age of the consumer. Now, I recall you did a study on this recently, so I would love to maybe just get a 30,000-foot view of what that study was and what brought it about, and then maybe some details of what you found in running the study.
Firstly, the study was conducted because at the core of our cultural tenets is leading with listening.
Right.
So we're constantly listening to the customers through millions of surveys that we conduct, events, and of course, business advisory councils. Mm-hmm. The first thing I would say is, along with the age of the customer, it's the dawn of the and.
Right.
Meaning, in the old world, customers would be maybe satisfied with stability over change. Mm-hmm. Or they'd be satisfied with standard products with minimal customization delivered for them.
Right.
But in the new world, they want stability and speed and quality and innovation.
Right, and probably even price at some point, I imagine.
Always. That stayed constant.
That's a given.
That's a given. Also, they do not want to just be a consumer. They want to be a co-creator.
All right, okay.
So they would participate in a borderless collaboration manner with businesses to influence the products. And what I would say is something that is, so this is what has shifted, where it's become much more of a collaborative, co-creative, and the
right.
environment.
Right.
But what has stayed the same is the demand for speed, mm-hmm. simplicity, and proactive care.
Right. Yeah, that all makes sense. I do like the fact that this has shifted, though, as a consumer myself. Sure. I mean, I've been on both sides of the fence. But I think that for many decades, organizations have thought they've known what organizations want. I remember hearing a quote from Steve Jobs where he was being interviewed, and the interviewer said, how do you always know what the customer wants? And he says, well, the customer doesn't know what they want until we tell them. But I think that's changed completely now. That is that consumers have the ability to share their voice, and certainly if you're running surveys and polls such as yourself and doing that research, and invariably getting better quality of services over time as well. And I imagine the relationship that you have with the customers is more positive as a result of that.
Absolutely. I mean, the relationship with the customers, when you're meeting them at their terms,
right.
is always better than if you are dictating the terms. So it's a co-creative, symbiotic relationship that we are after. It's where we are obviously both are pushing each other. Mm. Our innovations are helping the customers, but customer demands are helping our innovation.
No, it sounds like a much healthier relationship in the long term as well, more sustainable. As a former CIO yourself, I mean, you're constantly infusing technology into your own business operations and so forth, and you're seeing that with your own customers and so forth out in the market. Tell us a little bit about the approach that you normally take in the challenge of infusing technology into businesses and what you're seeing out in your client base.
Great question. Maybe I'll take a step back and say, a while ago, we had anticipated the shift towards software-defined networking and led the industry towards the products of software-defined networking. I was doing that. I was privileged to be part of that as a CIO. But also, simultaneously, we had understood that with SDN, while comes great flexibility, there also comes complexity. Mm-hmm. So we were hard at work for many years to build a modern technology-based platform or platforms to take care of the customer service aspect, be it all the way from ordering to delivery to complex needs during the service life, through the life cycle of the customer environment with us. So when you think about those two basic pillars that we've been have been informed our thesis of, mm-hmm. of operating internal to our AT&T. The one thing we did before we talk about technology is that technology alone would not have been satisfactory. Right. So we developed a holistic transformation framework which had people, process, technology, and culture as the four legs to its stool. meaning every initiative had to pay equal attention to all four to maximize the value of technology delivery. For example, if you deploy technology and you're not changing processes, the technology's value diminishes.
Right.
So you got to think about technology and process, but also people. You have to upskill them so they can work with the modern day technologies. And potentially, as new software technologies come, their job functions change, so their role definition needs to change. But the culture is the most important. The culture which is continuously absorbing change and a culture of continuous innovation. So that's how we have kind of couched technology in the middle of these four dimensions of change.
Okay.
And technology, of course, we've been very thoughtful to utilize all the way from robotic process automation to large-scale, deep-rooted changes within our operation support systems and business support systems for end-to-end flow-through and automation. So we have worked a taxonomy of when to use small, what I would call pebble-based automation,
Right.
and when you can use the boulder block automation, and how do we go about it?
I always had that image in my mind as a CIO myself previously. We used to have a picture of a duck, and underneath there would be little legs kicking along under the water. No one could ever see the little legs kicking away furiously. It was the happy duck on the top. You've also got the interesting challenge between the operational support systems, OSS, and business support systems at the front end of the consumer facing, I guess, and that must present its own range of challenges. And I like the point you made with regard to focusing on culture, because I think all around the world we know that culture drives behavior, behavior drives change and shift. Where are you seeing some of these technologies have a real impact on your customers today? I mean, you've been your own customer in the digital transformation, you've been your own customer, as it were, as in the first customer in the market in your transition to becoming a cloud-styled organization, cloud models, becoming a cloud native, everything software-defined infrastructure, software-defined networking, network function virtualization. Where are you seeing some of the biggest impacts to customers today? Because we've heard about 5G coming for over a year or so, we've heard about some of the benefits. But what I think a lot of people are interested in is where are the wins we're getting now? I mean, obviously you've had like connected hospitals, you've had connected ambulances, you've had sports stadiums, you've had rollout in the cities. That you must see, based on what you're seeing operationally on a day-to-day basis, some really interesting uplift for clients and customers where they're saying this technology is actually making a real difference to us.
Yeah. So firstly, as they say, culture eats strategy for breakfast each day and every day.
I want that on a t-shirt.
Exactly. So that's, and that's so true. So culture, back to finish off the thread, is incredibly important, and the focus on culture would be one of my biggest advice, especially in these times of immense change. Back to where are we seeing the true value? At the end of the day, as our mantra stands, we are in the business of enabling human progress. We are in AT&T Business serving other enterprises. So our goal is always for the enterprises to be able to serve their end customers in a faster, better, and more agile manner all the time. So some of the places where we are seeing the confluence of these efforts in the service of customers, FirstNet is a perfect example,
Right, yeah.
where it's a matter of life and death.
Literally.
Literally. So providing a separated, distinguished network for a mobile network for our first responders is a mission that we're incredibly passionate and proud of. Is one perfect example where, be it police, ambulance, fire, or many other support functions that go into providing first responders their capabilities, we're enabling that across the US soil so that they can serve the full populace of US much better. That's a perfect example.
Indeed.
And I would give you another example on the other extreme. Global customer based out of Europe with our software-defined wide area networking product. They were able to discover incredible amount of, because it's app aware, they were able to discover incredible amount of app interference, so to speak.
Okay.
Where one app, which should have had a lower priority for traffic, previously was hogging the bandwidth and infrastructure, slowing down their point of sale systems.
Oops, that's not good.
That's not good. So as we deploy these technologies, we are enabling them to serve their end customers better. Those would be just two examples out of many. And you touched upon a few too in your.
I love the FirstNet one though. FirstNet for me was one of those things, but once I saw it and read the press release and then read about it, I was like, well, that's a bit of a eureka aha moment that we should have already thought about, but I guess there's so many challenges, isn't there? One last question, if I can, then.
Sure.
I mean, on a day-to-day basis, you jump out of bed, you're literally building technologies and systems that are changing the planet on a daily basis. One of the things that people that we have tuning in on a regular basis ask us is what are the sorts of things that they can start actioning today? We hear a lot about 5G coming. It's here now. We hear a lot about the benefits that it might bring. People want to know, what can I do today? If you were to offer some advice, just even at 30,000-foot point of view of everything from what to do in the boardroom all the way down to conversations at the water cooler, what are some of the insights that you could share around what you've been able to do in your role and certainly inside AT&T Business and your clients that they might be able to take away an action from this? Sure. One or two just general thoughts around what they can action and what they can put in place now.
Well, yeah, I think the most important things I would say is, number one, create a transformation framework.
Perfect.
So that you can continuously and constantly infuse change into all aspects of business and operations. If you don't have a systemic, structured approach to it, which can take innovations of any type,
right,
test it, either fail fast or succeed fast, then scale it, and then get it fully adopted, then you would be left behind because of the pace of change is immense. Secondly, engage the hearts and minds of your full employee base.
I like that.
And it is so essential in these days to be a servant leader. And servant leader is a phrase that maybe folks don't fully understand. It's about always thinking to enable your teams as opposed to being on top of the pyramid, right? With that mindset, if you can get the creativity, innovation, and the frontline input, because they know best what's going on.
Yeah, they're living and breathing it every day.
Exactly. And engage them in the ideation phase, in the development phase, and very importantly, in the adoption and the change management phase. If you don't have the 360-degree closed loop with your full employee body participating, you're not maximizing the paycheck that you're giving them.
Indeed. And
every
invariably
month.
It might fail anyway.
Exactly. And third, and maybe the most important, in fact, I'll strike out the maybe, the most important, a culture that is customer success obsessed.
Right.
Because customers are our number one asset. Without the customers, we won't be here.
Exactly.
So if you take care of the customer and always think through the customer's lens, business results take care of themselves.
Wow. We should just write that down as a book. Well, thank you so much for making time to catch up with me. It's been great to see you, and I've really been looking forward to this conversation, and it didn't let me down in any way, and I look forward to seeing where you're going to take this in the next 12 to 18 months across not just AT&T Business, but your clients in general.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot, Des.
Thank you.